the last discussion which we have done on Friday. Let's recall a few of the points. So I want you people to recall them. So if I can get started with what exactly the skeleton is. The one who were present on Friday, what exactly the skeleton is. What skeleton of a database is called as?
Schema.
Schema.
Okay. And what are the two types of schemas which are available?
Physical schema and logical schema.
Very good. Okay. Now, once the schema is done, the database, we can create it. So what are the two ways of processing the data?
OLTP and
OLTP
OLAP.
and OLAP.
Okay. And what is the exact difference between OLTP and OLAP?
Online
Online
transaction
transaction
processing.
processing.
Online transaction processing. And
Online
online
analytics
analytical
processing.
processing.
And what does they convey? I mean, OLTP is what, how the process goes.
It is a kind of
OLTP is
complete transactional one. Kind of
Mhm.
an example you have taken as a banking. So where we are creating the account where we'll get a debit card for a transaction purpose. Later on that, based on our transaction of history data, so later on that we'll get the credit card. So this is how OLAP and OLTP.
Okay. If I can recall it back, see, in simpler terms, OLAP is nothing but your database which is frequently getting updated. SQL is one of the OLTP system, whereas OLAP, it is nothing but your big data, your historical data. So the data which is not getting updated frequently and which is stable. Only select statement is used to get the information is called as OLAP. So only select statement. And whereas in case of OLTP, it is purely transactional data where you can use insert, update, delete. Now we kind of also seen the three-tier architecture on Friday, which is nothing but our client server architecture. The third architecture, which is frequently used for any relational database management system. Now, management means whenever you create a database, there has to be some management, there has to be some processes, there has to be some ways how to manage that specific database. Now, RDBMS is one of the widely used, where the SQL is one of the best example. And at the end, we might have concluded with the example, the basic example of data lake, data warehouse, data mart, and database. And now how the data flows from data lake, it goes through data warehouse, it goes through data mart, which is also a part and parcel of data warehouse only. And at the last, database comes into picture. So always keep it in mind, data lake is at the highest level of hierarchy where all the raw data, where all the unstructured data can be dumped. In case of data warehouse, more a kind of semi-structured data. Why? Because a finished product is getting parceled from data lake to data warehouse. And in data warehouse only, similar set of products are arranged together in a single environment, maybe a single rack, maybe a single place. So that single place, that similar place is called as data mart. And at the last, database comes into picture. So these concepts, if you know the basics of any SQL concepts very precisely, it would be very easier for any individual to grasp any question, to get any question which is being asked in the interviews. And these all questions are asked in interviews. May not be for the person who's having 3 or 4 years of experience, but a person who's trying to enter this field. Kind of fresher or maybe 1 to 1.5 years of experience. These kind of questions are similar for a person who is entering the field of data analyst. Now, today, we would be seeing few insights related to what all SQLs are available. I mean, we have seen there is a relational database management system which is called as SQL, and SQL is nothing but the structured query language is nothing but our a way of communication with any specific database. Now, in terms of SQL also, there are multiple options available. One is SQL Server, which is a product of Microsoft. The other one is PLSQL. Now, PLSQL is nothing but your Oracle. There is a slight difference between PLSQL and SQL Server. Now, every SQL, which is developed by every organization, they has their some own characteristics, and there is very slight change. Most of the things, most of the concepts remain same, but there is a very slight change. Now, this PL SQL or Oracle is developed by Oracle Corporation. There is IBM DB2. This is also one of the SQL only, which is developed by IBM Corporation. PostgreSQL. There are many other tools, but these tools are one of the frequently or widely used SQL tools which are developed by multiple organizations. And every tool, as I've said, every tool has its own characteristics. There is a very slight change, not much difference. Concepts remain same. Now, in simple terms, there's one more, which is one MySQL, which is developed by Apache. And we would be learning the MySQL concepts. We would be using this MySQL, which is developed by Apache. Now, there are a few reasons why we are using this MySQL only. One of the reason is if you go with SQL Server, it's a cloud-based. You cannot create SQL Server directly unless and until you have a cloud-based, unless and until you have a cloud access or a cloud service. The same goes with Oracle. This is also cloud-based. IBM DB2, even this is with respect to cloud-based, but it is with specific to IBM team. I mean, IBM has their own internal cloud system, so it is further connected to IBM servers, the IBM cloud servers. Even PostgreSQL and MySQL, see, you might call these two as kind of free source or open source, but Postgre is also somewhere connected to some different cloud environments. The only best approach or the only best tool which we can use without any cloud connectivity, without any additional charges is with our SQL, the MySQL, which is developed by Apache, which is easier to install. We can use this for our SQL practice. Now, why exactly, I mean, what exactly these tools try to convey is, see, in SQL Server also, we get some IDE. Now, what do you mean by IDE? If you want to write anything in your, I mean, if you want to note anything, we use a notebook. So similarly, in SQL or in terms of any specific programming language, if you want to write it, there is some concept called as IDE. IDE is nothing but your integrated development environment. With that IDE only, you can access or you can write your queries and you can, I mean, use it for your practice. You can convey it to the database. So MySQL is one of the tool which also has a IDE present in it, integrated development environment, where you can write your code. In case of SQL Server is a cloud-based. If you want to connect the SQL Server with IDE, I mean, where you want to write your code, we use SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. This is a tool which can be used as a notebook to write our SQL queries. Same goes with Oracle. In order to use Oracle, there is a PL SQL developer. This tool works, or this tool acts like an integrated development environment for the PL SQL, which, I mean, this tool acts like, it's a notebook where you can write your queries. Now, similarly for MySQL, there is an inbuilt IDE available once you install this MySQL. Once we install this, there is an inbuilt IDE available. We can directly use that IDE. We can directly use that notebook to write our SQL queries. Now, MySQL is directly installed at my end, but prior directly opening it, I'll show you what are the steps which we need to follow to install this MySQL instance. So if you're using the latest browser, try to search MySQL download for Windows, or else directly mention MySQL download. It should open the very first website, which is MySQL. So if you go here, it's a product of Apache. It's developed by Apache. Now, if I scroll down, here you can download your MySQL instance. So this is the correct website. If you go to this website, here you'll get two options. One is the installer, and the other one is the 2.1 MB file. So always go with the second one, 296 MB file. Let me see if this is the latest one. Yeah, it's 8.0.37. This is the latest one. You can download this. Once you download this, a package would be downloaded. You have to select all these options. A package would be downloaded. See, the very next step, once you click on download, it will ask you to log in. No need to log in. Just click on this no. Thanks, just start my download. It will be getting, I mean, it will start getting downloaded. Here, this is how it will look alike. With the latest updates, the size might change. So when I used it in 2023, or maybe I guess this I've updated in the January also. It was around 331 MB. Now it's the file size is reduced. Now the file size is somewhere around 296 MB. So it's the latest update, 8.0.37. Try to download the same thing. Once you download it, we can click. I mean, if you double click on this installer, which is downloaded, this is the first window which is when which it is getting opened. Now here you have few important setup steps which we need to select very correctly. See, for few of you, these options would be slightly different. Let me download it and again see. Let's see how it goes. This window is different for every update. So that is the reason I'm trying to download it. And again, probably I'll see what kind of window is available for me. Now, the very first thing, probably this window is not available for me. This is the what I'm directly getting. See, while using this, choosing the setup type, some might get 3 options, some might get 4 options. So for the one who are getting only 3 options, never select server only or client only. Select the third option, whichever third option is there. And for the one who are getting 4 options, select the full option. In case of full, you will get a custom, you'll get server only, you'll get client only. But for the one who are only getting 3 options, select the third one. Do not go with server or client only. Might be the option is not even custom for the one who are getting only 3. But for the one who are getting all these 4 options, always go with full. So full means all the packages with respect to SQL would be installed. Now, once that is done, the second step is your installation. These all options. At my end, this is already installed. That is the reason I'm unable. I'm able to get only this window. Choosing a setup is not available for me. So the second window is your installation. What all products you want to install. Default, every product would be selected. Selected. Once you come to this window, click on execute. If you execute it, all the options would be automatically getting installed. You can see every product will start again installing. After every product is installed 100%, it will again ask you to go to the next option which is available, which is product configuration. Now, this is our product configuration. In case of product configuration, a server and a client would be automatically initiated from the SQL server, the MySQL instance itself. We need not do any manual intervention here. The server and the router or the client option would be automatically installed because we have installed a complete full product where server also will be installed and client will also be installed, including our IDE, the integrated development environment. Now, once that is done, the last step is installation complete. See, in the last step, you will get these kind of options available. So for the one who are using this 3306 TCP IP port, the port would be slightly different. It might take a different port. This port is automatically taken by any SQL which is getting installed. For MySQL also default it is 3306. For the people who are using this port for some other product, it would be automatically different. But 90% of the time, for them who haven't installed any SQL in their machines, this would be same 3306. So do not change anything. Click on next. In this mode, accounts and roles, here it will ask you for the password and username. Now, see, there is no need to add a user here. There is no need to add a user. You are installing it in your own system. That means you are the admin here. So directly mention the SQL password. Do not add any role here. Directly mention the SQL password and make sure you remember this password because every day it will ask you to log in with the same password. Now, once the password is mentioned, go to the next option. Whatever options are enabled as it is, go to the next option because we need not change anything. This is the standard system account only. It would be the same. Once that is done, see here in the server file permissions, grant full access. This window also would be slightly different with the latest update for 8.0.37. So in that case, also use S grant all the accesses. Use this option. You might get two options, you might get three options, you might get four options also. Go with yes, grant full permissions. So if you are granting full permissions, your server, your client would be clearly installed without any maybe default packages, without any access issues. So that makes the SQL, MySQL instance precisely installed in your system. Now, once that is done, so this is how every step would be automatically installed. Now, installation would be done, your starting of server would be done. Once the server gets started, this is what the window will look like. The next window will look like. See, in this next window, here you will get the username, and username would be root, ROOT root. This username won't change. This is your admin username, which is ROOT root username. Password would not be option available here. Just click on finish. Once you click on finish, here this window will come. Connect to the server. Now let's open me that window. See, this is what a window will look like. Username is default, your root. You need not change anything. If you see here, localhost, the semicolon 3306. So this is the TCP IP port. This is somewhere related to your networking. This is somewhere related to your server and client server architecture where your server is installed on this specific port. Now we have to mention the password here, which we have used while installing. So I've mentioned the password. Whatever password I've mentioned, it will open in this manner. If you can see, it will take some time. This is how it will look alike. And the same step where you have to double click and mention your username and password. Once you mention that, it will open this integrated development environment. A notebook like structure would be available for you. So here in this case, whenever you open this SQL, there are two different options here. Default, it will open this way. You would be in the administration tab. Towards left, there is a navigator. In this navigator, you would be opened in the administration tab. So do not get confused here. Administration tab is nothing but your settings tab, where you can check the server status, the client connections, how many users are there. So all these options are available. Client connections, users and privileges, all these options are available. Now, if I come down to the right tab in the navigator itself, there is a tab called as schemas. So schema is nothing but where you are creating your skeleton, your database skeleton. Prior creating any database, we need to create a schema here. So this is how the skeleton look alike. Schema or skeleton look alike. So these are different databases or different schemas which are available. While creating a database, a schema would also be created in the background. So that is the reason all the schemas are available in the schemas tab in the navigator option. And maybe I would be using since long, all these tabs are available. For you people, there won't be any tab open. You can simply click on the SQL plus. If you click on the SQL plus, a new tab would be opened. A new tab would be opened. Now at the last, once that is done, this is how it will look like. Now here, this is our integrated development environment. This is just like your notebook. Your notebook where you can write your queries, you can query your queries. Your queries would be queried using a server which we have installed using MySQL. This is your client. Behind this client, there is a server which is also installed. So whatever you try to query in this IDE, it will work like a client. Client will call the server and server will interact and it will give you the output. Now, as we have on Friday, as we have studied about schemas, while creating any specific database, you need to create a schema. So it is our duty. We can come down to this navigator tab, go to the schemas option, and we can create a schema. So for the very first time, if you're using this notebook, if you're using this IDE, as I've said, we need to get started with schema. So see, if you are creating a database, a default schema would be created in the background. So it is up to us. you can mention whatever database you want to create, a schema would be automatically created. So create, I'm using create. Create is nothing but you are creating something here. Create whatever name of the database or whatever name of the schema you want. You can mention that schema or database name here. So create Ritesh. This is what I'm trying to look alike. So create Ritesh database. See, while creating a database, automatically a schema would be created. And once you mention that, let me run this. Now, if I'm trying to run this, whatever output, whether it is correctly updated, whether it is not correctly updated, all that information is mentioned here. You can see there is some error. The output tab is trying to convey there is some error here. Now, there are few set of rules, there are few set of permissions, or maybe there are few set of options which are available while writing any SQL queries that we have to follow. Now, let me mention that queries also so that it would be useful for us to easily understand. Let me open that tab. Now, the thing is, we cannot write create the database name and database. It should be always create database. Then you have to mention whatever name of the database you want. So this is what the name of the database is. I want this name. You can see here itself, somewhere towards left, if there is some error in the query, a cross icon is visible. The red icon is visible. So what we have written, create Ritesh database, which is not visible. Now, I might have highlighted SQL is nothing but your English. It is just a way of communication with your database. Similarly, whenever you try to write anything in English, your grammar should be correct. So here grammatically, we need to use create database, then name of the database which we want to create. Now, if I run this, there is no error. You can see there is no cross icon also. If I run this, a database would be created. So the database is created. Now, how do I make sure this database is available here towards the left? See, there is some refresh icon available here, the up arrow, downward arrow. If I refresh this, you can see there is a database called as Ritesh. So whatever database you are creating, prior creating a database, a schema would be automatically created. So now here, there are two types of schemas. One is physical and one is logical. Physically, wherever that schema is present, this is where the tables, views, stored procedures, functions. So all the SQL concepts which are present here is called as a physically, which is getting stored here is called as a physical schema. And if you create this database, you cannot directly jump to this database. You need to use this database. So while using this database, you need to mention use database, Ritesh. Now, there is one more error here. There is one more error here. You can see. Now, if I run this, the query itself is giving me error. If I run this, there is some error. Now, what is the error? If I remove this, I want to use this database. I already know there is a database created. Why to mention database again? Now, these are few set of rules we need to follow. While creating a database, you need to mention what you are trying to create. You're trying to create a database. Once it is created, if you want to use this, you have to mention use that database name directly. Do not mention any database. Now, if I click on this, automatically I would be in this database or in this schema. I would be in this Ritesh schema, which I have created. Now, these are few set of rules which we need to maintain or which we need to keep it in mind. Now, while working on any SQL queries, see, you should be always precise in writing. Now, one important thing is whenever you're writing a SQL query, your SQL keyword should be in capital. Now, create is a keyword. This should be in caps. Database is a keyword. Keyword which is present in SQL, you should mention that keywords all in capital letters. This is the, standard approach, or this is the standard way which we use in our day-to-day life as a data analyst. Now you can mention Ritesh in small or using a combination of capital and small. This is possible. Why? Because this is not a keyword. This is the name of the database. Whereas database is a keyword, create is a keyword, even use is a keyword. Now, if you want to use the database, use is also a keyword. Mention this. Now, the question is why again it is showing as a red. I might have mentioned precisely. We are already using this database. We are already using this schema. That is the reason it is again giving me an error. We are already present in this Ritesh schema. So make sure whenever you are writing any SQL queries, your SQL keywords, which are present. Keywords means which are highlighted in blue. That should be always in capital letters.
Yeah, Ritesh, but we mentioned 2 times same command, create Ritesh database. That time it did not give any error.
Very good. The thing is, you can create n number of databases. You can create again a database with Ritesh. Maybe a name should be slightly different. Whereas if you are using that database, you are present in that database, that means you are already present. It is indicating, trying to indicate that you are already present in this database. You're already present in some of the database. You can create a database with same name. You can create a database with slightly different name also. Even that is possible. If I use this, let me see. There is some error, but this query should run. So there is some error. Still, this query is running. Now, in case of MySQL, that is one drawback. Whenever you write any SQL query, if you are getting some error here, that means there is some problem with the query. Unless you're damn sure that the query is correct, you can still use it. Unless you're sure that the query is damn correct, you can skip this red indication. Sometimes red indication is also given when you are already present. There are some updates. Well, as we are already using this schema, as we are already using this database, that is what it is trying to indicate with this. Now, when you are writing the SQL queries, you will be getting used to with the SQL workbench. There you can easily guess whether the query is wrong or something which is related to schema, which we are already present, that it is trying to convey with this cross sign. And if you hover on this, let's say if there is something which it is highlighting. See, there is no option to highlight here. And I'm trying to click on this cross icon. There is no option to highlight here. Now, if you go with the Oracle PL SQL developer, see this IDE where you can write your Oracle queries, PL SQL queries. This IDE is smart enough. There, whenever you are getting a cross icon, if you hover on that, it will try to convey what wrong or what is not correctly updated in that query. Whereas in case of MySQL, it is not that smart enough. It is only giving you a cross icon. Something is wrong here. That's it. Few of the environments, few of the IDs are smart enough. They'll give you what is wrong there. Even SQL Server, the SSMS IDE has few updates. It will try to indicate what went wrong there. Now, here in MySQL, unless you run that, you'll not get what is wrong there. Unless we run that, you'll not get what is wrong there. Once you run it, you'll get an error code and you'll get a kind of one-liner description what went wrong. Over on that, all that information would be highlighted. What went wrong, what is correct. Now, we might have seen how to create a database or how to create a schema. Whenever you're creating a database, a schema would be automatically created in the background. Now, once you create a database, you need to use that database. So we are in this database. Now, we would be starting with the basics of SQL, the basic SQL queries. Now, what basic SQL queries we have? See, usually in SQL, the information is broadly classified into SQL is nothing but a way of communication. It is nothing but a language. So in case of SQL, the SQL queries are broadly classified into 4 different languages. One is DDL, the other one is DML, the other one is TCL, the other one is DQL. Now, what do you mean by DDL? Every D stands for data. The start. data. Now here T stands for transaction. Here also D stands for data. So DDL is nothing but your data definition language. Now, what do you mean by definition? See, definition means we are defining something. In order to define something, if you want to create any table here, you need to define that table. Now, defining that table is called as data definition language. Now, the other one is data manipulation language. Now, what do you mean by manipulation? See, if you want to get insights, simply search what do you mean by manipulation. Manipulation, the action of manipulating something in a skillful manner or action. What do you mean by manipulation? That is what I'm trying to check. If I scroll down, see, manipulation means controlling someone or something to your own advantage. I mean, we need to control something. So once you define any structure, you need to manipulate the structure. You need to control that structure. I mean, definition means creating a table, giving a table access. Once that is done, you need to manipulate a table. You need to take a control, you need to take advantage of table which you have created, where you can insert your own records. So that is what it is called as manipulation language, to manipulate table. I'm just giving you some examples to manipulate table here. Now, TCL is nothing but your transaction control language. Now, what do you mean by data control language? Whatever information we are writing, that specific information, we need to control that information. So controlling information or tables, controlling tables. I'm only taking an example of tables. You need to define a table first. Then to manipulate a table. Then controlling tables. The DQL is nothing but the data query language. Query is nothing but you're searching something. Searching tables. Searching tables is your query language, and transaction control is how to control your transactions. That is what is called as TCL, transaction control language. Now, whatever data you are updating in tables to control manipulation. I mean, whatever manipulation we are doing, to control that manipulation, we need to use this TCL. Now, in simple terms, I'll try to explain it in detail. What do you mean by data definition language? See, whenever you're working on any structure, whenever you're developing any structure, you need to define a structure. Now, similarly, we have created a database. While creating a database, a default schema is created in the background. So whenever you're using that database, whenever you're creating a table in the database, you need to first define a structure of a table. Now, how do you define a structure of a table? Using a create statement. You're trying to create a table, create table. We need to mention table name, whatever table name you are trying to write. Now I'll mention a table name. This is what the table name is. See, table name can be in small letters. Even though I have mentioned it in caps, table name can be in small letters, whereas SQL keyword should be in capital letters. Now, create table, I have mentioned this as table name. This is your table name. Now, once you mention that, see, this is how the structure of a table will look alike. Within the closed and, I mean, open and closed parentheses, you have to define the table. You can write it. Now you can define the structure of a table, what all rows and columns you want. If you recall it, a table is a structure where it will contain rows and columns. Now we need to define a column which you want. In row, we cannot define. You have to insert that values as a row, but what all columns you want. Now, in case, let me create a temporary table, name of a student. See, name is a keyword which is present in SQL. That is the reason it is highlighting. But we are using this name as a column here. Name underscore, maybe I'll use student name. Student underscore name. This is the name of a column. What column I want? Contact. Contact of that individual and address of that student. Now, once you mention this, see, these are the column names which are present in the table. Now, how the table structure look alike? Let me open this. Now we are trying to create a structure of a table. Now assume that we have created the structure of a table. This is the background of it. So in every table, there is one row and there is one column. Now, rows we cannot insert directly. There has to be some columns, only then rows would be inserted. Now, if you have certain set of columns, what would be the name of the columns? We're trying to write the name of the column. So here we have written name of that student. In second, we have written contact. So this is the columns. And in third, we are trying to write it as address. So once you mention this name of the columns, you need to mention what kind of data type they are. We are mentioning student name, but once you mention the student name, what is the name of that? What is the data type which you want to insert? What values you want to insert in the student name? Now, data type means it's a varchar data type. Now, what do you mean by data types? I'll again explain it in detail once you understand how do you write a data definition language first. Our primary focus is to define a structure of a table, data definition language. So varchar is nothing but a type of data type where variable as well as character type of data or variable as well as character type of any kind of data can be inserted. Now I've mentioned varchar. I will mention a comma here. I'll come down. Now, in case of contact, contact is a numerical value. It should be a numerical value. Digits should be mentioned. So I'll mention it as int. I'll again mention a comma here. I'll come down. Address. Address should also be a combination of variable as well as character. That's it. Now, if you see here, there are some errors. Now, what it is trying to convey. There is some error here. Let me close this. Okay, looks everything good. Semicolon should be there. Now, if I run this, something here it is highlighted. See, you can see something it is highlighted here. Comma is not a valid at this position, expecting some bracket. So whenever you are mentioning variable and character, there should be some size of it. Now, if you see, the error is gone. So this is the size of the information which you want to insert in the student name. Now let me create this. Now one more error. It is trying to convey one more error. What is the error? See, we might have mentioned varchar here. Why not mention here? Error is gone. So whenever you're using a variable and character data type, you need to mention the size of that data type. Only then this will work properly. So our primary focus was to define a table. Define means we are creating a table. A table is created. Now, how do I make sure the table is visible here in this Ritesh schema or Ritesh database? I'll refresh this again. See, you can see there is one indication here that there is a table which is inserted under this Ritesh. If I click on this, this is the table name. The table name which we have created. Name of the table is case insensitive. This is not case sensitive. If you write it in caps, if you write it in small, everything is same here in MySQL, except your queries, your SQL keywords. SQL keywords also it is also possible. You can write it in small also. So MySQL is a case insensitive. It is not case sensitive. Now, for the people who doesn't know the difference between case sensitive and case insensitive is, see, if you're working in any IT domain, you will come across these words, these keywords. Now, what do you mean by case sensitive? See, if you're trying to create something in that specific, not with respect to SQL, with respect to any programming language, with respect to any IT domain you are part of, case sensitive means if you have written something, now I might have written my name, Ritesh. Now, this is my name. And with this name, if I'm trying to query like this, in case of case sensitive, sensitive means information is sensitive. If I have written everything in caps and I'm trying to search using the small letters, that means it will not fetch the information. It will not fetch this information. Why? Because we have written everything in caps. So case sensitive means it has to match the capital letters. It has to match the exact information. Now, even in this way, if I'm writing this way, and if I'm trying to search again with all small, this also will not work in case of case sensitive. Case sensitive means information should be correctly searched. If I write this way, only then this information would be searched. For above also, if I write everything in caps, only then this information would be searched precisely. Now, again, if I've written something like this, now if I'm trying to search it this way, because we are not sure what is caps and I mean what it is written in small and what it is written in caps. So that has to be very precise. If I search like everything in small or everything in caps, it will not fetch. So in case of case sensitive, whatever you have written in that correct manner, including caps, including small, everything should be precisely written. Only then that information would be searched. Now, in case of case insensitive, whatever you write, I've written everything in small. If you search this way also, it would be fetched because it is matching the information, not with respect to caps and small, but with respect to whatever characters we have written, it is matching that. So in case of case insensitive, you can write any information anyway. You can search this way also. You can search this way. Even if you search this, in case of case insensitive, the information would be correctly fetched. So most of the programming languages are case insensitive only. Only few are case sensitive. Very rarely you will come across this case sensitive. And while using these case sensitive languages, you have to be very maybe attentive because information should be correctly fetched there. If you write something wrong, the information would not be fetched. So MySQL is case insensitive. You can fetch any kind of information with any caps or small. You can use a combination of caps and small also. Now, coming down, we have seen how do we define any structure? How do we define any table? Now, once the table is defined, we need to query that table. We need to see what information is present in that table. Now, how do I query? We use a statement called as select star from what is the table name. I can copy this table name. I'll paste it here. See, even if you do not mention any semicolon, there won't be any problem. But always keep it in mind, whenever a SQL statement is getting ended, you should mention a semicolon there. See, this is what this table structure is looking like. Now, we have used this DQL, which is nothing but searching tables. We have searched a table, select star from whatever table name you have created. Now, what do you mean by star? In case of SQL, if you mention star, that means all the columns which are present in this table, that would be displayed. If you do not want all these columns, mention few set of columns only. Now, I only want to mention student underscore name. Select student underscore name from this table. I'll use this. only student name would be visible. Why? Because I've only searched one column. If you mention star, all the columns would be visible. Now this is your DCL. DQL, data query language. I'm trying to query something which is already created. The query, I mean the structure of a table. Now create table is nothing but your data definition language. Now if you want to comment something, you're writing some query and you want to, you want to keep it in mind what we have written, what this query is trying to convey. You can use a hash keyword here. After hash, you can mention whatever you are mentioning after hash, it would be used as a comment. Now, if you run this also, this will again throw me error. Why? Because the table is already created. But everything is correctly running. Why? Because this is written in comment. Now, if I again run this, the select statement will work precisely. But this is written in comment. If I remove this, this will throw me an error. There is some error. What is this DQL? So DQL is nothing but what I'm trying to convey. The statement, select statement is your DQL, data query language. Now I have queried, I want to insert data in it. I want to manipulate this table. I want to take advantage. I want to capture this table and I want to insert some records in that table. Now, in order to insert records, there is a statement called as insert statement. Insert into whatever table name it is. This is the table name. See, while creating or while defining any structure, you need to mention what is that structure you're trying to create. While creating a database also, I have mentioned create database. Create database is nothing but your data definition language. This is your DDL. But while using this database, I haven't mentioned anything. I've directly mentioned name of the database. This is your DQL, data query language. Use is nothing but you are using something, you're selecting something, you're selecting some schema, you're selecting some database. That means you're querying something. So while querying also, you can see select star from table name. I haven't mentioned, I've directly mentioned the name of a table. I haven't mentioned anything called as table, directly mentioned the name of a table. So while inserting also, need not mention insert into table, directly mention table name. Insert into table name values. I want to insert certain values here. Now, what values can I mention? Student name. See, while writing any variable character, varchar values, it should be in single inverted commas. It should be single or double inverted commas. Anything between inverted commas. So I'll mention single inverted commas. I'll mention certain name, comma. What is his contact? Now, in this case, I guess this will throw many errors because integer has a certain limit. Let me give some random name. Now, in case of integer, contact is an integer data type. It is not required to mention it in double inverted quotes or single inverted quotes. You can directly mention because it's a numeric data type. You can directly mention it, comma. At the last, there is one more column which is called as address. I'll mention address. Probably I'll mention my city name. That's it. I'll close it. See, insert into need not mention the table, anything, any structure is not mentioned. While defining a structure only, what you're trying to create, that structure name should be mentioned. So we are trying to create a schema or database. That is the reason I've used create DB. But while using it, use name of the DB directly. So while creating a table, create table. But while using the table or while selecting the table, need not mention the table. Directly mention name of the table. Why do we need to mention the name here while defining is we need to define what we are trying to create. We are creating a table, we are creating a view, we are creating a database. So that is the reason we need to mention what we are creating. Once it is created, it is already known to that MySQL that it is created it as a table or a database. So need not mention anything, directly call it. So I'll insert this record. A record is inserted. Now again, I'll try to use this DQL to see how many columns are present or how many values are present. You can see these are the values which is present in this table. So I'm trying to manipulate this table. I'm trying to capture this table and load some values in it, insert some values in it. So it is called as data manipulation language, DML. I'm defining, I'm querying, and I'm manipulating that table. Manipulating means I'm trying to take a capture of it. I'm trying to capture it and I'm trying to insert records in it. So I'm manipulating that table. Now you can you can insert n number of records here. I'll again use an insert statement. Let me change the name. I can insert one more record. Record is inserted. Now again, I can query it. Now the thing is, you can insert a duplicate record as well. If I again insert this Ritesh, see, there isn't any error. There can be multiple Ritesh also. If I again query this, Ritesh is repeated with the same value. Even contact number is same, your address is same. So in case of data manipulation language, you can insert duplicate records. If you want to control these duplicates while defining the structure only, while defining the structure of a table, we can need not mention duplicates. Now we have to, we'll go to that advanced concepts once we get understanding, but prior understanding, just get an example. What do you mean by definition? We are trying to define a table. What do you mean by DQL? We are trying to search whatever table we have created. What do you mean by DML? We are trying to manipulate. We are trying to take a capture. We are trying to capture that table and we are trying to manipulate. We are trying to insert that records in that table. Yeah, Sagar, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ritesh, actually, if you go to that MySQL, no? So we have set at the row level, right? Here,
What?
either address or phone number, things and all. So we
See,
have taken the as a table name as case or practice. Suppose if I have the same table in different one more database, how we can use that time? I mean, same table.
you need to change this. If you're
Okay.
using any specific database, use that different database. Now,
Okay.
accepted if you want to use two databases simultaneously,
Uh-huh.
use this way. Schema or database dot table name.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Thanks, Ritesh.
Yes, Neha, you have a question, it seems.
Yeah, hi Ritesh. Could you please tell me once like DCL and TCL example, like how you gave a query example for each DDL, DML, and DQL to be more clear?
I'll give you. I'm yet to reach that, but I'll definitely give you.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Now, we have seen DDL, DML, DQL. Now, what do you mean by DCL and TCL? There is data controlling language. How do you control that table and how do you control that specific transaction? Now, let me open this. Here you will get an idea. So data definition language, there are three commands here. Create a table. Whatever table you have created, you can drop that table also. Whatever structure you have created, you can drop that structure as well. Now let me mention all these queries here. In case of DDL, you can create, you can drop. Now, whatever structure you have created, you can alter that structure. Alter means change the structure. Rather than dropping it and recreating it, you can alter the existing structure also. Even this is possible. See, these three commands are called as data definition language. Now, if I come down to DML, in case of DML, there are commands called as insert, We are trying to insert some record. We are trying to manipulate that table, whatever table we have created. We're trying to update a record. You can update a record also. Whatever record we have inserted, you can update a record, and we can delete a record. Now, there is an interview question, difference between delete and drop. See, dropping means dropping the structure which we have created. Deleting means deleting a value which is present in that structure. We are not deleting complete table. We are deleting this, values present in that table. In case of drop, we are dropping that complete structure. Drop is a data definition language, whereas delete is a data manipulation language. Now, in case of DQL, only select is the correct keyword. If you want to select something, it is called.
वायर वाले नाम करेंगे
Now, the one who is speaking, could you please go on mute? Now, in case of DCL and in case of TCL, what all commands are there? See, in case of DCL, it's a data control language. You're controlling something. Now, what do you mean by DCL? Grant and revoke. See, this DCL is used whenever you want to give user a grant access and revoke access. Now, while creating our SQL server also, here we had an option here. Something, if I go back here, my SQL user accounts, in this accounts and roles where you are mentioning your password, there is an option called as add user. See, if you are adding a user, that means you're granting permission to the another user who can also access your MySQL instance, which you have installed in your system. Default, you are the root user. That means default, you are the admin user. Root is your admin user. But if you add a user role here, and you can mention, see, password would be same, but you can add n number of users here. So adding user means adding additional user who can utilize the same SQL, MySQL workbench or MySQL server, which you have installed in your system. So similarly, DCL is somewhere like that. You are granting some privileges to a user. If you want to grant privileges, you can use this grant keyword. If you want to revoke whatever you have granted, if you have given some permissions, you want to revoke that permissions, you want to take that permissions back, you can use this grant and revoke. See, this DCL and TCL, you cannot directly use at the very first day. I mean, I can explain it now, but if it would be very confusing. The thing is, we are yet to understand how to insert, how to select, and how to insert, how to create that. Once you create, you need to create a user role here. Only then you can give grant or revoke access, and only then you can use this commit, rollback, and save point. Now, what do you mean by commit? What do you mean by rollback? And what do you mean by save point? See, I might have explained what do you mean by DCL. Whenever an additional user is added, you can grant that user and you can revoke that user whatever permissions you have given. Whereas in case of transaction, see, whenever you are inserting some value, that means you are doing some transaction. That means you are inserting some value to it. If you want to insert, whenever you are inserting, this value is automatically inserted without any commit access. Now, commit means you are committing something. In case of transaction, this is one transaction. Once you run this, the transaction is committed. Default, it is committed. Now, in case of TCL, no transaction should be automatically committed in real term. We are directly committing it, accepted, but no transaction should be defaultly committed. You should use some updates here. Now, there are few keywords. Set auto commit equal to 0. Only then this will auto commit will be off. Now, we would be discussing here this DCL, maybe after 4 or 5 days. Why? Because first we need to understand these DML, DCL, DQL, and DDL. Only then this TCL and DCL would be easy to understand. Even DCL is now, we can discuss it now also. But the thing is, we need to add a user. An additional user should be added. Only then you can grant that user. Only then you can revoke that user. So in simpler terms, DCL is nothing but adding some additional users and giving some roles to it. To this MySQL, if you are root, if you are admin here, you want to add some other individual. Whenever that individual logins, that individual should not see all the data. So you can grant him only read access. He cannot edit anything. He can only read that data. So reading access, I mean, giving read access is nothing but grant read access. If you want to remove that read access also, revoke that read access. Now that is the example of DCL. Now what do you mean by TCL is, see, if you are inserting any record, default that record would be automatically committed. Now you want to roll back whatever information you have inserted, you want to roll back that information, you can roll back. That is, there is a possibility to roll back also, but these concepts are kind of different concepts. I mean, they are slightly different. Prior to this, you need to understand DDL, DML, and the DQL first. So I'll definitely explain it, but in simpler terms, whenever you're inserting any record, a record would be automatically committed, but in real term, this record should not be automatically committed. It should be rolled back also. Whatever information you are inserting, it can be rolled back also. It can be rolled back to whatever stage it was. So you want to roll back this information? Yes, definitely you can roll back that information. Now maybe I'll show you one example. Just a moment. Now, while using this TCL, you should be using this query. Set SQL save updates. SQL underscore save underscore updates equal to 0. That means whatever commit default auto commit was there, it is set back to 0. Now you can again go down. Just let me show. Now again, I have to use one more statement. Set auto commit equal to 0. Now, whenever you insert a statement, see, I have inserted these two statements. Everything is kept to 0. Whatever statement you are inserting, let me use this. Again, I'm inserting some value. See, I've inserted some value. And again, I'm trying to select. So, Ritesh is repeated, Rakesh I've inserted. Now, if I roll back, so I'm trying to save this information. I want to roll back to Rakesh. What I'm trying to do, update. See, whatever information I've inserted as Rakesh, I'm trying to update some information. Now, while writing update statement also, many people would get confused. What do you mean by update? So update should be precisely written. Whatever you're trying to update, update table name. So this is the table. Update table. Update table name. I want to set. Let me see what is the exact name which I've written. Student underscore name equal to dash equal to Mumbai. Now I'll explain the update statement also, but prior to this, let's get an understanding. See, I'm trying to update name of Rakesh to Ramesh. If I again see that, the name of Rakesh is updated to Ramesh. But somewhere I've saved that information. I want to roll back that information. See, whatever insert or update you're doing, it is not getting automatically committed. Why? Because I have used set SQL updates to 0 and I've used set auto commit to 0. Default auto commit is 1. Now again, I'll roll back to Rakesh. Again, I'll go. If I search this, you can see where I have updated Rakesh to Ramesh, it is again coming. I mean, it is again roll back to Rakesh. Why? Because I have saved up till this. Again, I've used update. Whatever I have saved up till this, I can roll back from here. So rollback will work. Default auto commit, we need not write anything commit. Commit is already equal to 1. So you have to make it to 0 using this statement. Set auto commit equal to 0. That means whatever information you are trying to update, whatever information you're trying to insert, it will not be committed. Now, once that is done, wherever you want to save, you can save up to that point. Now, something you have inserted, something you have updated, but you haven't updated it correctly. You want to roll back to the previous step. You can use this rollback. But using rollback, prior to using this rollback, you should have a save point. You need to save up till what you have used correctly. Once you save that, and after that, you are trying to update something which is not correctly updated, you can roll back. So this is how the transaction control language works. In case of data control language, you need to create a user here. You need to create a user, create user. You can give a name of that user, whatever name you want. So once you mention that name of the user, whatever permissions you want, you can mention that permissions here. Grant permissions, read permissions, whatever grant, read permissions, grant, write permissions, you can mention that permissions here. But prior to getting understand, these are all the advanced concepts, my kind of mid-level concepts, not advanced, mid-level concepts. But prior to that, let's understand the DDL, DML, and DQL first. In case of DCL, it is grant and revoke permissions to a user. And in case of TCL, it is nothing but commit, which is default 1, need to set to 0, save point, and rollback. Any questions, any concerns? How do you define it? How do you manipulate it? How do you control it? Grant and revoke permissions and transaction control language we would be covering once you get a good insights of these. We have a different session set up for this TCL and DCL also.
Hi Ritesh, use is also DQL, right? Along with select.
Yes, use is also your DQ. So you can mention that also. Most of the times we go with select only. Use is with respect to database or any schema. It will mention that also. Use.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, any concerns you have? See, first understand basics. If you are good in basics, and I'll guarantee you in interviews, people get confused between DDL, DML, and DCL also. Forget about DQL and TCL. DQL and TCL, people with 5 years of experience also get confused. Remove that. Maybe we'll cover it in a separate session. But first, do not get confused in DDL, DML, and DCL. See, do not mug up the full long forms also. DDL is nothing but defining something. You cannot manipulate anything unless there is a definition of structure. So you need to define a structure first, then you can manipulate, then you can control. So DDL, DML, DCL, DQL, you can data query the language, select and use statement. So first thing is understand what do you mean by DDL. You cannot directly use DML. DDL should be first, then DML, then it should be DQL, the data query language. Now we have seen create. If you want to drop anything, you can drop anything. You want to drop something, drop. So drop is a keyword, drop. What you want to drop? What you want to drop? This table. See, while inserting, I have used Ritesh.ksr practice underscore value. That means this is the database. If I use something different, let me use something different. I'll use a schema which is already present. If I insert this, see, this will throw me an error. Table sakila.ksr practice info doesn't exist. That means we are not using this database. You need to use this database. Only then this insert would be correctly done. Come down. You want to drop anything. I want to drop this table. Whatever table I've created, I want to drop this table. See, drop is a data definition language. If you directly write drop, it will not work. What you want to drop? Drop table. Drop table, table name. Let's see. Table is dropped. Now here again, it is giving some error. That means what error it is giving? The above statement is not correctly updated. If I remove this error would be done. Here also, update is giving me some error. There is no error here. If I click a semicolon here, the error is gone. So error means something prior to that also, it will give you a cross mark here, the red mark here. So drop is nothing but I'm dropping the structure. I'm dropping the exact definition. Now, if I use this select statement, there is no table. This will give me an error. Ritesh.ksr practice info doesn't exist. This table isn't exist. That means you have dropped that table. Now again, I want to create the table. Again, let me create this. Table is created. Let me insert the records. Records are inserted. Now again, I can use a select statement. These are all the records which are present. Now, in case I'm using delete. See, delete is a data manipulation language. Delete, in case if you're using a delete, in case DML will never require table. You need not mention table. Delete. How do you delete it? You can, you cannot directly mention delete this table name. We are not deleting a table. We are deleting records present in that table. You cannot delete complete table. You can delete the records present in that table. Why? Because delete is a DML, not a DDL. How do I delete? Delete from insert, also insert into. So if you want to delete anything, delete from this table. If I use this statement is correctly working, what it has done, if I again use a select statement here, all the records are deleted. All the records are deleted. Table structure is there. Whatever definition we have done, whatever defined structure we have used, the table structure is there, but records are deleted. So in case if you are using delete and drop, get understanding of it. Dropping means dropping the structure. If you drop this, there won't be any table also. This select statement will not even work. But if you delete it, table would be there. Table would be there. This defined structure would be there. Only records would be deleted. Whatever records are present, whatever rows are present, that would be deleted. Now these are the rows. If I use a delete, table structure would be there anything, but only records would be deleted. So that is the difference between drop and delete. Now there is an option called as truncate also. There is an option called as truncate. Truncate is also data definition language. I'll mention that here also, truncate. Difference between drop, delete, and truncate. See, in case of drop, you're dropping a table. In case of truncate, let me use truncate. See, it is reflecting here error just because the above statement isn't closed. Truncate, done. I'll go back. What do you mean by truncate? Table structure is still there. See, drop is deleting the structure, it is vanishing the structure. Whereas truncate, it is not vanishing the structure. So truncate might look like a DDL, but it is not a DDL, it is a DML. It might look like a DDL, but it is not a DDL, it is a DML. It is deleting the records, but it is not deleting the structure. Whereas delete without where clause and truncate both are same. And if you're using a delete, never use delete this way. Delete from table, it will delete all the records. Delete is used wherever you want to delete only one record or two records. Without where clause, if you're using a delete. Now, where is a keyword in SQL and where is a clause in SQL? There are clauses in SQL. Where clause. Without where clause, if you're using a delete, it is very dangerous. You have a table where there are 1 lakh records and you are using delete from table, all 1 lakh records are gone. Now you can roll back it whenever, where in that case only, most of the times auto commit is kept to 0. So if you have saved up to certain point, you can roll back that also. But whenever you are using delete, keep it in mind, do not use delete directly without where clause. If you want to delete something, use where clause. Now let me insert some records. Records are inserted. I want to delete my name. Delete from table where student underscore name equal to Ritesh. Only this record I want to delete, not all the records. If I use this, this is working properly. I'll again go back and use a select statement. See, only 2 records are there. The record with my name is getting deleted. So use of delete should be with where clause only. By chance, if you do not use where, it's your mistake. So make sure if you're using a delete, where clause should be always present. If you want to drop the structure anyways, you can use drop. But if you want to delete a certain set of records, use where clause. Without where clause, it is most dangerous. And I have seen people working in the organization, maybe not seniors or not folks who have a good experience, but people with 1 or 2 years of experience, they are very confused in the SQL statements. So they directly come, they utilize some database, they get the access to the some table, certain set of tables where the records are inserted, where the multiple rows are inserted. They directly go and delete it without where clause. Do not do it. Without where clause, do not delete anything. Use where clause. In case of DML, where clause is must. In case of update also. See, in case of update also, I've used update. Let me use this all caps. Update this table. I want to set the name of a person where address is this. So here also I've used a where clause. If you directly, if you do not use where clause here, now what is the select statement? Let me see. There are 2 records, right? Now without where clause, I'll use this update. I'll only run up till this. I'm not using any where clause. I'll run up till this. Up till this also, update statement is working. Now again, if I go back, if I use a select statement, see all the student names are automatically updated to Ramesh because I haven't used a where clause. Even for update, if you're using something, use a where clause. Where do you want to update? Where clause is must for any data manipulation language. Insert accepted. You can, you're inserting a record. You're inserting a new record, fresh record, where there is no requirement of where clause. In case of update and delete, where clause is must. Without where clause, it would be kind of tricky situation what you have updated. You want to update where the person belongs to Mumbai. Only where, only then he wants to update the name to Ramesh. If you do not use where, automatically everything would be updated. And in the most of the organization, auto commit is kept to 0. You can roll back, but important thing is while using delete and update, do not directly use it, use a where clause. By chance, if you also deleted one of the record, there won't be any problem. You can roll back, you can connect with the team that this is what I've deleted with the help of where clause. But if you delete all the records, you would be in a situation, maybe if you're working in an organization, you will have a escalation on you. Maybe they'll remove from there also. There is a very high possibility. So make sure you are using delete and update very precisely. Where clause is must. Now we are good on time. It's almost 9:35. We kind of seen create, we have seen drop. I'll explain how do you alter whatever table you have defined. You can alter that table. So you can change the structure of a table. We have seen all these statements, insert, update, and delete, including truncate. Truncate might look like a DDL, but it is not a DDL, it's a DML. Any questions on the concepts which we have covered today?
Hi Ritesh. You said that you'll be sharing the PPT, right?
You folks didn't want the PPT. Let me see.
No, no.
Just a moment. I shared with the team. Not sure why they haven't shared
Just
it.
got the recordings link, that's all.
Oh, is it? See, yeah, I'll upload this. Probably I'll upload it next 5 minutes only. You will be able to see that.
Yeah, okay.
I guess team haven't uploaded it, but my bad. I'll make sure the PPTs are uploaded.
Yeah, okay. The installation PPT also will update, right? Whatever you
Yeah,
showed.
installation. Yeah, installation. Anyways, I was going to update. You can download this PPT also once it is updated.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ritesh.
Any more questions? Now, one more question I'll ask you. If you, any one of you out of 27, 28 or 30 who are present, I guess it's all on 45. Okay. Any one of you are feeling that I'm going very fast? Or is it that I'm going very slow? This pace is okay, or you want a bit slower? I guess we are, to my understanding, we are at a good pace. But if you feel that I'm very fast or if you feel that I'm very slow, I can change it.
Yeah, actually, there are so many commands, new commands for us to work on. So somewhere I feel a little bit fast. So I need some time to adjust these commands.
Okay.
So it will confusing. So everything looks same for us.
Is it Manoj?
Yes, yes,
Manoj, you you understand Power BI concepts, you understood
yes,
concepts
yes,
easily.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
accept it.
yes,
It
yes,
happens.
yes.
It happens with SQL. That is how it works. So in case of SQL, as I've said, every day you should go back and practice the queries. Only then you'll be able
Right,
to grasp it easily.
right.
So do not get confused. Maybe I'll make sure. See, still even though I've covered all this concept, but I only covered 6 queries today, 6 or 7 queries today. That's it. And for alter, it is slightly different. Update, okay, we can easily get it with the help of where clause, but alter works slightly different. So that is the reason I haven't covered it today. I'll keep it for tomorrow. We'll continue with the other queries. How do you create? How do you update? And what all concepts are there in SQL? So let me upload this PPTs also for today's session, the PPTs which we have covered till now. Wherever you are stuck, make note of that points. Try to ask me in tomorrow's session. I'll be able to answer it. It seems.
Hi, Ritesh.
Hey, Sindhu. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like if we are using the delete command without where class, so is there any command where we can retrieve the updated records?
Rollback is there. That is what I'm trying to say. Rollback. You can roll back it. But commit and rollback is not given to every individual. You cannot commit, you cannot roll back the records as a developer. If you're working as an admin, there you will get all this TCL and DCL updates. TCL and DCL commands are only available to the leads or admin people who are working in the SQL. But for a developer, you will not get DCL and TCL access. So make sure one thing, if you're using delete and update without where clause, do not use it. Keep it in mind. Even if you are working in a very stressed environment, your company pressurizing you, you need to update, you need to work so and so things. If you come across update and delete statement,